recording now, so
Okay.
let's try this. Well, first of all, what's your name and where do you live?
Well, my name is Cliff Newman, and I live in Port Byron, Illinois. I've lived there for about 20 years now.
Where are you originally from?
Originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Matter of fact, in about October of this year, we're moving back to Cedar Rapids.
Is that right?
Came to the Quad Cities for my job, and I've been retired now for a few years, so we're going to go head back to home.
It's very good. You and your wife and...
My wife, the children are all over the place. We have a son in Dallas. He's the one I was telling you, the eclipse of 2024 is going to go across his house. And I have a daughter in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and a son in Minneapolis.
I have a cousin in either Minneapolis or St. Paul.
Yeah.
So, now first question is how many total solar eclipses have you seen so far?
We've been to 4.
4.
We've seen 3. We got totally clouded out when we were in Hawaii in 1991 for the eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
It got very dark, but we didn't see the eclipse.
Mm. So in what other places have you seen eclipses?
Okay, the first eclipse that we attended was in October of 1977. We were on a cruise ship off the coast of Mexico, and of course they had a lot of flexibility as to travel. There were a lot of clouds, and so they were able to move the ship around to find a clear spot. There was 2 ships out there, the Fair Sea and the Fair Wind. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of astronomers on board. I was able to meet and talk to Bart Bach and some of those really famous, I think Dr. Bach is gone now, but a lot of famous astronomers. It was really fun. They had learning programs. They had seminars going constantly, astronomy seminars. So that was the first one we saw, and that one was, I think, a little over 2 minutes. The next one was really an interesting case because it was February of 1979, and it touched part of the United States, I think Washington State or Oregon, Washington. Then it went across Canada. And so we were going with this Eclipse Chasers Club, which was organized by Dr. Harry Nelson at Augustana. And he had done this in Australia earlier, hired a plane and flew along the path of the eclipse because we were concerned about clouds. So he called United Airlines and he said, we'd like to hire a plane to fly us from Chicago up to Canada, not land, just come back to Chicago. So I had, my ticket says origin Chicago, destination Chicago. Kind of interesting, but we did. He talked to them and they said, well, what would you like us to do? Charter this plane? Yeah, okay. And I would like you to remove all of the seats from the right-hand side of the plane so that people can crowd around the windows to see the eclipse. So ride in all the seats on the left, on the right, to remove all the seats. And they said, I don't know. I don't think we can do that. And so Dr. Nelson called a good friend of his, Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong happened to be on the board of directors of United Airlines, so it was very quickly got back to Dr. Nelson and said, okay, we can do this for you. And so we did. We flew out of Chicago, seated in all the seats on the right hand or the left side of the plane, flew along the path of the eclipse, which would have been on the ground about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And because we were moving along at like 500 miles an hour, we got 4 minutes and 40 seconds of total eclipse. So that was my second eclipse. My third eclipse was in 1991. We went to Hawaii, had a wonderful vacation out there, but we didn't get to see the eclipse because it got totally clouded out. Although the people who went to Baja California in Mexico got a clear view of it, so I was kind of upset that I chose Hawaii instead of Mexico. We missed that one, and that was a long one. That was, I think, about a 7-minute eclipse.
Wow.
That's about I think the longest they can go is between 7 and 8 minutes.
I think so.
So then in 1998, we went on a cruise ship again in the Caribbean, went down to Aruba, got off on Aruba the day of the eclipse and set up, and we got these pictures here that I'm showing you. And so that was a great experience. We loved it, and so that was my 4 eclipses, 3 of which I've seen, and one I got to see cloud bottoms.
See. So you took these pictures on the Aruba eclipse. Can we see?
Right.
Them? Can we see them, please?
Let's pick these up here. Yeah.
It's right there.
It's got the initial diamond ring picture, and then the total corona in the middle of the eclipse, and then the final diamond ring picture. So that was a great eclipse. We got good pictures, and that was, of course, film. As Carl has pointed out, that was a film picture, not digital as we have now. I'm going to try digital this year and see how that comes out.
Where are you going to be for this eclipse?
Not positive yet. I originally thought I would be in eastern Oregon, get east of the mountains there, and it should be best chance for cloudless skies. But I guess areas east of that even are pretty good chance of being clear. Nebraska, Wyoming, then it cuts down by Kansas City and St. Louis, keeps going. I think the further east you go, maybe the more chance you have of seeing some clouds. But
based on past weather patterns.
Based on, I was taking the screenshot of the cloud cover every day around last August 21st, and there was a lot of clear sky across a pretty wide expanse of the United States. So.
That's good, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you say you're going to try digital. Are you bringing any other equipment to the eclipse?
My wife. She enjoys it. In Aruba, in addition to the pictures I took, I did do a video, and I still have that video, and it's kind of interesting. I told my wife, keep an eye on the video, and it's interesting to listen to that video because she's just screaming because it is such a thrill. Have you been to an eclipse total?
I've been through a few partial eclipses and one annular eclipse.
Okay,
I saw that in 1994.
Okay, but you haven't been to a total.
Never been to a total.
There's
before,
no comparison. Zero. Dr. Nelson told us I wouldn't walk across the street to view a partial eclipse. But he was big on the totals. He had been to, I think by the time he died a few years ago, he had over, I think up around an hour of totality. So
not bad.
He was really into that. He had been to Asia and Europe and South America. He had been everywhere. Wherever there was an eclipse, that's where he was headed.
A gentleman from the Quad City Astronomical Society, Bob Custer,
Mm-hmm.
he was an eclipse chaser.
Sure.
I think last I heard he went to Turkey to see one.
Yeah, I think there was one that went across Europe.
Sometime in the last decade. You know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bob and his daughter Cheryl were both astronomers and interested in anything astronomy.
Yes. Well, can you give us some insight as to what was going on around you during totality itself?
Well, it varies obviously from eclipse to eclipse, but as the totality approaches, you're in a partial stage, and the crescent of the sun is getting narrower and narrower, and the excitement is mounting, and there's usually large groups of people around you, and you hear all this murmuring and people just really getting very, very excited about it, and then you get to the last little glint of sunlight through the mountain valleys on the moon, and that's called the diamond ring effect. And then, boom, totality, and the corona just blossoms out from the sun. I don't know how to describe it other than to say it's a spiritual experience. It truly is. It's when we were on the cruise in 1977, many astronomers were there and many seminars. And one of the things that was explained to us is that it's like a miracle that this can happen. That the moon is exactly the right distance from the Earth compared to the sun. The apparent diameter of the moon is just right. to cover the total surface of the sun. So
Yes.
it probably doesn't happen anywhere else in the solar system.
It doesn't.
So it's really great, and the people get really, really, really excited as soon as totality hits. You'll hear some outbursts of wow, and look at that, and then after a few seconds of it, they kind of get really quiet, and it's, like I say, it's a spiritual experience, and people are all enjoying it within themselves. And my wife and I both truly enjoy the eclipses. Our first one on the ship in 1977 was very interesting. We were right next to Wendy Carlos, who was a very avid amateur astronomer, and she had some binoculars that she was watching them with. And since we were on a rolling ship, she had them gyro stabilized, and you'd hear this. She had them hooked up to a big car battery, and you hear this thing cranking up and whining louder and louder and higher pitch. Boy, you couldn't move those binoculars. You get them focused on the eclipse, and no matter what the way the ship moved, they would stay right there. So you meet a lot of very interesting people, and have a lot of wonderful experiences. Like we've been on 2 cruises and the trip to Hawaii, so and the trip on the airline over Canada, that was interesting as well. We all got together in Chicago and had a big dinner the night before, and again a big dinner the night after we got back. And meet a lot of wonderful people. So it's a wonderful hobby, but you meet a lot of really good people.
Sounds wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
You said that you were on land for the Aruba eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any animals, plants, birds around?
We were right in, and I don't know the name of the town, but it was right in a town there on the west coast of Aruba. And if I looked at a map, I could probably tell you the name of it. But we were right there, and they had this area kind of blocked off for the astronomy group that was coming off this ship. And everybody set up their equipment, and we're just right there. And you see some animals, some birds, obviously, and the birds go to nest in the trees because they think it's night. They woke up real quickly though. The sun comes back out about 2 to 4 minutes later.
Confusing for them.
Yeah, I think it gets very confusing for them. But no, other animals, no, didn't see any other animals. Obviously not on the ship, not on the airplane. In Hawaii, it got very dark.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see the eclipse. And then in Aruba, we saw the eclipse. Again, it got very dark. One of the effects you see during the total eclipse, if you get a really good clear sky all the way around, you stand right in the center and you can turn yourself all the way around and look at the horizon, and you see this bright orange, like a sunset, 360 degrees. It's really, really interesting to see that effect.
And it's an indication of just how narrow the field of totality is.
It is. I think this one this year is supposed to be 70 miles wide or something like that. It's not. They're never very terribly wide.
I think the maximum totality for this one's something like 2 minutes 40 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that
that's
wide.
over, I think Tennessee, maybe somewhere. Oh no, it's Southern Illinois, Carbondale, Illinois. I believe they get 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. But the prospects for cloudless skies are a little less than they would be in Nebraska or Oregon or other places. So
A little bit, yes.
now I have a good friend who's a really, really good weatherman. He used to be here in the Quad Cities. He's moved to Cedar Rapids. Terry Swales, and I've been in contact with him, and he wants to see the eclipse. And he says, I can probably tell you about 3 days in advance where you're going to have clear skies. So I'm going to be in close contact with him. Matter of fact, we may even observe with him and his wife. They were our neighbors in Port Byron for several years.
I see.
But the key, get to the path of totality and get clear skies. If you get those 2 things, then you're in pretty good shape. Also, in the path of totality, it makes a big difference if you're on the center line or if you're way out toward the edge. If you're way out toward the edge of the path, let's say it's 70 miles wide, and you're only 5 miles in from the outside of that, you may only get 15 seconds of totality. If you get on the center line, you'll get over 2 minutes of totality. So the key, get on the center line, get clear skies, and then you got it made. You're gonna really enjoy that experience.
Sounds like it's like a once in a lifetime event for most people.
I think that's true, and I think the United States, we're going to see a lot of people who are going to go ahead and experience that, because it goes all the way across from Oregon to South Carolina. There's going to be a lot of people that if they travel, say a couple hundred miles, they can get into the totality path, and there's a lot of people already in the totality path. So I think you're going to see more Americans see the eclipse this time than have maybe ever.
Yes, that's what we're all hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you've been to Mexico, Hawaii, Aruba. You're going
Canada.
To Canada.
United States this time.
Are there any other parts of the world you'd go
We
to?
thought about going to some other eclipses, but it's not inexpensive to do that. And you have to plan your traveling and your budget for your traveling, and so you don't always go. There's an eclipse there's a total eclipse almost every year. So you might want to have to go to Africa, or there was an interesting one fairly recently that I thought about going to on Antarctica. But no, we decided not to do that.
Did you see any shadow effects?
I did not. I looked for they call it the shadow bands, and I looked for those. You'll lay out a white sheet right by you, and you watch just as the totality is almost there, just in the diamond ring time. And a lot of people will see these dark and light bands, and we did not see them.
This happens just as you're getting to the Bailey's beads diamond ring effect, so it must be pretty brief.
Very brief, and then you get it at the other end again. But unfortunately, we did not see those.
Any idea what causes them?
I don't. I think a lot of people probably do know the answer to that, but I'm not that advanced on eclipses. I just enjoy going to them and viewing them, and just enjoying the whole experience.
It sounds like one to really look forward to.
Yeah. I suggest, you're fairly young, I suggest that after you go to one, you'll be going to more than one. If you've been to a totality once, you'll go again.
I already have April 2024 on my calendar.
Mm-hmm. We knew a gal who was an exchange student from Argentina, and she was staying with friends of ours, and so we knew that there was going to be a total eclipse going to go right down very, very close to where she lived, and we told her, you've got to go and see that eclipse. And we saw her about a year later, and we said, did you see the eclipse? Oh yeah, we didn't have to go anywhere. Right from our house we could see it. She saw a partial. Ugh. So, when you're talking to people about viewing the eclipse, don't settle for a partial. Get in the path of totality, get on the center line, find a cloud-free sky, and enjoy. It'll be an experience of a lifetime.
Yes. Anything else you'd like to say to future eclipse spotters?
No, I just want to share an experience that we had with, this actually goes at the beginning of the whole thing, but we first met Dr. Nelson at a lecture he was doing at Augustana after the Australian eclipse. I think maybe that one was in 1972. And they hired a plane and they flew the path of the eclipse. So, and the meeting, the lecture he was giving was, I think, in January. It was very, very, very extremely cold. And we went and we enjoyed it, and that's what got us hooked up with him. And we joined his Eclipse Chasers Club, and then we went to the 77 Eclipse with him. But when we came out and got in our car, the whole car was just like frozen solid, and the brakes were froze up, the motor was froze up. We couldn't do anything. And I tell you, he was a gentleman of a gentleman's. We never met him before. He said, "Are you having troubles?" And we said, "Yeah, we can't get the car started and the brakes are frozen." And he says, "Oh, no problem." Put us in his car, took us to his home. We introduced us to his wife, and we sat there and had hot coffee and enjoyed things for a while. And he called the AAA, and they came and fixed the car, and he took us back, and we went home. So that's the kind of people you meet at eclipses. Just, they'll do anything for you.
Is this Eclipse Chasers Club still around?
I interestingly, because we're cleaning our house, getting prepared to move to Cedar Rapids in the fall, and I ran across my card, and I forgot to bring it along, but it says Eclipse Chasers Club, and I forget what member number I was, 39 or something. But I don't think the club is still active at this point. And when Dr. Nelson died several years ago, I think it kind of faded away.
I see. It's too bad.
Yeah,
It might be a rush of new members this year.
Yeah, I'll bet he could get more members than he knew what to do with.
Yeah.
You'd probably join.
I might.
Maybe you should start a new one. Are you taking a big group to Nebraska?
A small group.
Small group?
Yeah, mainly to produce the webcast, and a couple of them are going to do observing on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Well, rooms are filling up very fast along the path of totality, as you can probably imagine.
Sure, I imagine. And you don't know for sure if that's where you want to be, so I'm probably going to be sleeping in the backseat of my car. I have no reservations made. I'm just going to find out where it's going to be clear and go there.
Yes, we're keeping mobility
Mm-hmm.
very much an option.
Yeah,
And
you have to.
in fact, we're looking into trying to get a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot that we can bring along, just in case we aren't able to use our first choice location.
So you'll be broadcasting the eclipse live?
Yes.
Okay. Probably a lot of people will be doing that.
We're trying to think of some ways to make it a little bit different. But
Well, it should be great fun.
Like interviewing people at Bentoin?
Exactly, yes.
Well, a lot of people have been to eclipses. It's like I say, once you've been to one, you want to go to. You say, when is the next one? When can I go again?
Yes.
Matter of fact, I think there's eclipses between this one in 2017 in the United States and the one in 2024 in the United States. There's other eclipses that'll happen in other parts of the world. They had one, I think they had one very recently in Indonesia. They had another one over near the
Faroe Islands.
Faroe Islands, yeah. So yeah, there's eclipses all the time, but you have to be prepared to travel.
Yes.
Maybe travel a long distance.
Well, one comes to mind. In my mind, there was one in Central Europe in 1999, and I mentioned the one in Turkey that our friend and colleague Bob Custer went to. I think it was that 2006? I want to say, or
Somewhere around there.
If you need to know, it's in there. It's in the book. Every eclipse is in there. 2006.
Totality, Eclipses of the Sun.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. This one is from 86 to 2006. So it went across Turkey. Right there.
Yes, 2006. What does that say? March 29th?
March 29th. There was another one. I guess that would have went south of Turkey, though. 1999, August 11th.
Yeah, that's the Central European one. Went through France and.
One was 2006 and one was 2011. So they crossed. Interestingly, there's a place somewhere in the United States where the the 2017 eclipse exactly crosses the 2024 eclipse. I thought about buying a house there,
Carbondale, Illinois.
somewhere down that area, right?
I visited there. I did an eclipse workshop there last year, and there's a vineyard there called, I think, I don't exactly remember the name of it, but they're already planning for both eclipses.
Yeah, that's well, eclipse paths cross fairly often, but that little spot where they cross is a pretty small piece of real estate.
And it's not often that they cross less than 7 years apart.
That's true. Mm-hmm. So any other questions about the eclipses? I would just say that we've been to the four and we've enjoyed all of them. We even enjoyed Hawaii because we got to tour Hawaii, but even not seeing the eclipse, it was a great experience. So,
if nothing else, being an eclipse chaser is a good way to see the world.
absolutely, that is exactly right. You plan all of your vacations around where and when is the next eclipse.
Yes. Well, I'm all out of questions, so I want to thank you very much for agreeing to come out here and.
Okay, great. Enjoy doing it, and where did you say you're going to be? Somewhere in Nebraska?
Aurora, Nebraska.
Where is that exactly?
It's
Near Lincoln?
I think it's about 20 miles east of Grand Island.
Okay, so it's out of western Nebraska.
More central,
Okay.
really, yeah.
Aurora, Nebraska.
It's just off I-80, so
Mhm.
very, very easy drive there
Okay.
from here.
Yeah. Well, I hope you have clear skies. Maybe I'll go to Aurora, Nebraska to view the eclipse.
We're all keeping our fingers crossed.
Okay.